Some video game theories can be pretty creative, while others can be downright terrifying. Have you ever seen a theory for a video game and thought, holy shit, that's scary? This could actually be true. Well, turn out the lights and get comfortable, because we're counting down some of the most terrifying video game theories out there, and some of these might be more true than you think. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to The Gamer for more exciting video game content. Without further ado, let's dive into 10 true and terrifying game theories. Polybius. We thought we would start with one of the most famous urban legends in video games, Polybius. A video game so notorious and well known it was featured on an episode of The Simpsons. Ay caramba! This legend first popped up on the forums of the site coinop.org in 2000 and describes some recovered data from a game known as Polybius, although nothing about it is verifiable. The poster goes on to describe how in 1981, several arcades in Portland suddenly had a new arcade cabinet, simply called Polybius. According to the story, kids and adults would line up and crowd the machine, with fights about who would play next happening often. Soon, Men in Black allegedly came to the arcade and collected data from the machines and would leave without acknowledging anyone. According to the story, players would play this game to the point of addiction and would begin to have night terrors, insomnia, and amnesia. Then, just as quickly as these machines appeared, they vanished without a trace. Soon after the post on CoinOp, this story was then passed to GamesPro, a popular gaming magazine at the time. They ran the story in a section called Secrets and Lies and was the first instance of this story reaching a wider audience. GamesPro ultimately labeled the story as inconclusive, and the story began to die down. Most people call this a hoax, but no one's been able to 100% disprove this story, which of course creates doubt. Just think, what if this was real? What if? What if? What if? What if? Squall is dead. There is a lot to say about Final Fantasy. It's one of the longest running franchises in gaming and continues strong to this day. With a cast of memorable characters in many games like Cloud, Vincent, and Squall, it's no wonder Final Fantasy is as popular as it is now. Now, this theory centers around Final Fantasy VIII and more specifically the main character Squall. This theory states the game is about Squall dying and eventually passing on. This kind of theory isn't new, as we've seen similar theories in anime and cartoons, like the Ash is dead theory in Pokemon, and the kids in the cul-de-sac are in purgatory theory from Ed, Edd, and Eddy. However, this one may have more to go on than you think. At the end of the first part, in a cutscene after the boss fight, Squall is impaled with an icicle and falls to his death. At the start of the next part, he wakes up without the wound, and things go on as if it never happened. This game also takes a shift from regular fantasy to more sci-fi outer space trip. In the end of the game, you get to see Squall's life flash before his eyes. Now, this would not be too scary, except some players report seeing Squall without a face during the end credits, and it can be unnerving, to say the least. Captured GLaDOS. As simple as it may seem, Portal is a game with a rich and memorable story. The game has you playing as a captive test subject for Aperture Science, a long-dead science and research company run by the AI GLaDOS. In the game, you only ever hear GLaDOS, taunting you and putting you down at every turn. It all ends with a puzzle boss fight where you enter GLaDOS' main chamber. Now, there is something strange about her design. It may not be apparent the first time you play the game, but just take a moment to look at her. In the developer's notes, they mentioned GLaDOS was supposed to look like an upside-down version of the Birth of Venus. However, when you look at her from every angle, you don't really see the birth of Venus. You might instead see a captured and bound woman. This theory has been spread around and is one of the more well-known ones, and it's pretty haunting and creepy to this day. Think about it. All this powerful AI who has tormented you is actually just trapped as you are. In a way, this theory was confirmed in the sequel, when you and GLaDOS actually have to work together to stop another rogue AI. This creepy theory puts one of gaming's coldest villains in a more sympathetic light, especially in the sequel. Indoctrination of Shepard. Okay, some theories are made out of love for a game in an attempt to add some depth, but sometimes theories can be used to cope with a terrible loss. So even with the terrible mess of Mass Effect Andromeda fresh in people's minds, people still consider Mass Effect 3's ending to be one of the most offensive endings in video game history. We talked about it in a previous video, but to give you the skinny, Mass Effect 3 essentially robbed players of the choices they had enjoyed throughout the franchise, and basically gave the player a huge middle finger for caring. Yeah, right here. All those hours you pumped into this game? Yeah. As this ending began to sink in with players, they began to rationalize it and try to soften the blow the only way they know how, other than to complain to the developers. They make fan theories. So, there are many different ones out there. But one people have accepted the most, and is also the most creepy, is that Shepard has slowly been indoctrinated by the Reapers. Before the end of the game, Shepard is blasted by a beam of Reaper energy. From this point on, it's suggested that Shepard, and by extension, you are being indoctrinated by the Reapers. Your mind has been clouded to the point where your choices are limited, and the ones you are given end up resulting in your death. Not a very happy ending. Grief in Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask is an odd entry in the Legend of Zelda franchise. For starters, it's set in the world of Termina instead of Hyrule. Also, the villain is not Ganon, but instead Skull Kid, who's been taken over by a powerful mask. Hell, the Triforce isn't even in this game.
Where's the Triforce?
So why is this such a departure from other Zelda games? Well, for starters, Link is on the quest to find Navi after she has disappeared. But is there more to this? From the beginning, there are strange motifs and themes surrounding Link in the world of Termina. You are cursed to be a Deku scrub, and the only way you can be healed is with the Song of Healing. Later on, it's revealed you, Deku Link, were actually the spirit of Deku Noble's long-dead son.
I'm sorry, what?
In the Goron Mountains, you are given the power to turn into one of their most revered heroes after he passes. To be a Zora, you take on the spirit of a caring husband and musician, leaving a widowed mother mourning. It becomes increasingly apparent that Majora's Mask is centered around the 5 stages of grief. The people in the Clock Town deny the end is coming. The Deku are angry at the loss of their princess. The Gorons beg for their leader to return. Lulu slumps into depression after she is left alone, and Link finally accepts it all in the land of the dead. Well, that's why this game is creepy as hell.
It's creepy.
Cloud kills Aeris. We can't help ourselves for adding 2 Final Fantasy entries, but we promise this one is the last entry. We pinky promise.
Plus, it's just hard to talk about.
There may be some debate, but fans will agree Final Fantasy VII is the most popular installment in the franchise, having put it on the mainstream map and all. This theory seems a little stupid at first, but only after hearing the whole thing do you realize it's pretty shocking. So one of the most famous scenes in the game is when Sephiroth swoops down and stabs Aeris while she's praying in the temple. Even people who've never played the game probably know this iconic moment. Anyway, it's pretty shocking and tragic to see Aeris slump over dead.
It's so sad.
Cloud then lays her down to rest in the pool, and we slowly see her sink down to the bottom. A respectful burial for a fallen comrade. Or is it? Dun dun dun! According to the theory, Sephiroth's sword is not what kills Aeris. Going through her spine and hitting her stomach, it did not look like a fatal blow, however. It would definitely paralyze her and she might go into shock. However, what would undoubtedly kill her would be if someone laid her to rest in a pool to let her sink down and drown.
Cloud, how could you?
Aborting GLaDOS. Earthbound is probably one of the best games you never heard of or played. Of course, with the ease of access of emulators, you could probably play Earthbound now and not have to spend a whole lot of money, or anything at all. Anyway, Earthbound holds its place in a lot of gamers' hearts. For some, it's the comedy and oddball nature of the world. Others enjoy the RPG mechanics that change the genre, but for most, people remember Earthbound for one reason: GLaDOS. While gamers might sympathize and ultimately idolize villains like GLaDOS, GLaDOS leaves the player unnerved to say the least. Its theme and the way it looks at you is so haunting. The fact that your party has to essentially die and use robot bodies to fight is a whole new level of disturbing in and of itself. But what people remember most about GLaDOS is the whole fight is a giant allegory for abortion. In order to truly defeat GLaDOS, you need to go back in time to when it was an infant and destroy it. It doesn't help GLaDOS' silhouette looks like a fetus, but the eerie music and visuals are enough to unnerve and creep out even the most hardcore gamers. I'm still having nightmares. Now, whether this is literally supposed to be an abortion allegory is still up for debate. The influence for this entire fight may not be directly inspired by an abortion, according to Lingbloom, the writer of the game, but the visuals tell a different story, a truly disturbing story. Blues Radicate. Let's be honest, there can be an entire YouTube channel focused on creepy and disturbing Pokemon theories. What is it that makes this kid's game you carry around in your pocket about catching adorable monsters so dark and scary? Is it the fact that many Pokédex entries are depressing, heartbreaking, terrifying, or all of the above? Whatever the reason, Pokemon has a lot of theories spanning decades. Some include the anime, like the Ash is dead theory we mentioned earlier. There is also the Pokemon War theory suggesting Kanto was a part of a large-scale battle. Do we even need to bring up Lavender Town at this point? Instead, we're going to focus on one of the classics in the franchise, Blues Radicate. This one goes back all the way to the first game ever released. It made the rounds then and is still talked about today. As the theory goes, while you battle over rival Blue, you notice he has Eradicate in every battle up into the SS Anne. When you meet again in the Pokemon Tower, he asks you why you're even at the tower since your Pokemon are not dead. This would imply one of his Pokemon is dead and he's come here to mourn. You then notice in this battle that Blue is missing his Eradicate. You are only left to wonder if it died or if it's just floating in a PC, which, if you think about it, is a fate worse than death. Menstrual blood in Bloodborne. If Dark Souls is all about souls, then Bloodborne is all about... yeah, you get it. Bloodborne is an interesting take on gothic horror and monster hunting. The main mechanic of this game is blood. It runs the whole damn world of Bloodborne. You upgrade your weapons with it, you heal with it, you crave it to grow more powerful. But what if we told you this bloody, gory game could get even more bloody? Now, fair warning, this theory is not so much scary as it is disturbing since it deals with more personal matters. There is a popular fan theory going around that the blood in Bloodborne is menstrual blood. What? You know, period blood. We shouldn't have to spell this out for you. At first, you might be wondering, wait, all the blood is menstrual? Like even your characters? Luckily, no, not every single drop. However, we ask you to consider the following. The only characters who give you special healing blood vials are female. Arena is an NPC who will give you these, but at some point she says she can't after becoming pregnant. You might have noticed that elderly female characters can't give you this blood either, which might be because they do not menstruate due to menopause. Okay, this is really weird. Let's move on to the final entry, shall we? Please? Thank you. Kirby destroyed Earth. Oh, look guys, it's Kirby. He's such an adorable and cute little puffball. What is he doing on this list? Well, beneath those cute sparkly eyes lies the heart of a killer. Bet you didn't see that coming. However, we're not going to be talking about Kirby's monstrous eating habits, although we feel like someone should. Get into rehab, bud. Instead, we're going to talk about how, in Kirby and the Crystal Shards, Earth is completely destroyed. At least according to this theory it is. In the game, Kirby makes a stop at a planet called the Shiver Star. From orbit, you can clearly see the North American continent on the surface. However, the whole thing is covered in ice and snow. Upon closer inspection, you find the world is completely devoid of human life. Throughout the levels, you see buildings, automobiles, shopping malls, and robots, but not a single person. What happened? How did the Earth come to this? Was it climate change? A nuclear war brought on by warring superpowers? Or was it an alien race that wiped us all out? Or was it Kirby? Well, since it's a Nintendo game for kids, we'll never know, and we were probably never supposed to think too much about it. Of course, we all really need to talk about Kirby's eating problem, and how he murders and devours people for power, but I guess we'll save that for another video, because we're all out of time, folks. It's quitting time, let's go! It's okay, you can open your eyes now. Those were just some of the scariest video game theories. What did you think? Is there one you think should have been in there? Let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe to The Gamer for more gaming content. Thanks for watching.